Hello, everybody. So, listen, let's talk about stories and the mind and revision, okay? Because I think there's a lot of confusion around Neville's concept. And I think that some of the misunderstanding is also recognizing and realizing how powerful a tool revision is. Because I think most people hear his, or even read his lecture on the pruning shears of revision, which I should really encourage you to read a billion times if you can, is to fully grasp what he's saying and then what the mind is doing and to understand why revision works the way it does on the mind, okay? So revision is changing you. First and foremost, you are it. That's what it's changing, okay? Yes, when you're creating new scenes, it's changing those scenes, and it's kind of like an overlay, right? Where you're taking, or like one of those, like you see those in movies, right? Where it's all like people are playing with like these holographic images, and then the holographic image overlays onto an actual object, right? But you're the object. So when you're taking the new memory, you're revising that in that. And yes, by the way, you can revise in the moment, which Neville encourages people to do. He would do it. He even said that he wouldn't even leave the phone until he actually felt like what he had heard was the message that he wanted to be relayed to him by his friend of having financial success, right? And so again, revise in the moment. Revise morning, revise noon, revise night. Those are Neville's words. People think this is like just some easy, I want to choose this like a vending machine. No. You are the vending machine. Get it? You are the one who is using this all the time, every second of every day. People hear that and they get exhausted and they're like, oh, this sounds like a lot of work. The only reason why is because scientifically we've been trained as through our childhood to think that the brain is meant to be this thing that we just accept. Right? Well, that's the brain doing what it's doing, right? I've learned and blah, blah, blah. Okay, boom. No. Neville's completely altering the mental landscape and the way that we understand the brain, because he's saying, listen, you've got to get active about this as a lifestyle, okay? So manifestation is not just a grab and get, right? Most people get into manifestation like it is. And if you are, I'm not necessarily judging you, but I would definitely really encourage you to think about manifestation as a lifestyle, right? So back to this, okay? To fully grasp revision and what's going on, first things first. Revision isn't just changing your perspective on the event, and people are going to disagree with this, but this is where I'm very, very convinced what I'm about to say, because I'm speaking from personal experience, is revision changes the people involved. If there was more than you involved in that event, then it actually also changes the person and it changes the substance of the event. If you think of memory as just a ball of clay, you're molding and shaping it to now project what would have happened. And you're becoming the person where that event happened that particular way that you changed it, okay? So if it was like I got rejected a lot as a child, okay, and you start revising those scenes, right? And I would encourage you to always revise more than one scene, okay? Then you start altering the patterns and behaviors and perceptive lens and the reactions from within you to feel more loved, right? And to feel not impacted by rejection, and so on and so forth, okay? So that's what's going on. You are not just changing. This is not positive thinking, okay? This is not me saying use revision to then just change your perspective about something. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that as a surface level technique to say, okay, so I learned that I'm a strong person because I went through some crappy stuff. Whatever that is, that's not a bad thing to take away from that. But at the same time, if you alter the event, think about this. If you alter the event in your own history, your own mental awareness of your own experience of time, right? If you alter all of that, okay, and let's go back to this rejection idea. You were then, as in then, in that moment, 10, 15, 12, 7 years ago, whatever it was, you were then confident. You were then fearless. You were then a person who didn't care about rejection, right? You were then a person who felt powerful. That is going to have a residual knock-on effect for how much time has ever elapsed between who that person was who felt rejected to now being the person who has always been confident, right? And so you're living a different life. You're being a different person. And so this is about you becoming that person. And so again, it is practicing, right? And, everybody has a different technique. Everybody has a different method for how they get there. So as somebody who is in psychology, of course, exposure therapy for me works, right? Me putting myself in the actual scenario in 3D works. But again, for you, you may not be there to be able to do that. Or you might have to use a different set of techniques to get there. And that's okay. Neville says in his lecture on the law and picture making that everybody needs a method, right? He doesn't say deify it, turn it into a god, rely upon it, but use it, right? And so maybe in 5 years from now, that method wouldn't work as well as it did today. But that's because you're a different person, right? And that's okay to switch methods, okay? So again, back to revision. Okay, so for you to fully grasp the power of revision and why I say what I'm saying about it, you have to understand that memories in and of themselves are, again, like Plato. Human memory in general, right? According to science, according to neuroscience, right, every time we access a memory more than once, we never access it the same again because we're accessing it from a different perspective every time. And we're accessing it in a different mood every time. And so every time we do that, we alter something within that memory, okay? So in that sense, identity is always something that is shifting. Let me say it in Neville's word. States are always moving, okay? That doesn't mean that you can't find a permanent state, like I am a billionaire. Whatever it is, that's your permanent state, okay? But you have to understand that you're learning. And you can turn this, by the way, into a strength if that the mind and memories are always shifting and changing and altering themselves, right? Depending on how we interpret them and depending on how we remember them, okay? Then that means we can actually take that as a way to actually learn within the state, okay? It's called neuroplasticity, right? And it's your brain's ability to actually learn, okay? So then that's how you maintain the state. And I'm going to break this down in another video. But how do you maintain states? How do you make them more permanent? You learn within the state, right? Because Neville says you can be kicked out of state. So then, well, how do you maintain the state? You learn from within the wealth state. You learn from within the loved state. You learn from within house owner state, right? Whatever state it is that you're entering, you learn within it. Don't try to go outside of it and say, well, I got to learn why I'm this way and why am I house owner and wait a minute. And then that's when all hell breaks loose, right? Meaning all of the negative thoughts, all of the fears. So learn to get really good at the art of learning within a state, okay? And I'm going to give you tips on that in the next video. But I wanted to jump on here and explain what revision does. And I'm going to actually do a workshop on how to revise. But let me just close with a little bit of a primer on that, okay? Because if you're going to change, that means you have to be willing to change. That means you have to be at a place on your journey where you say, I'm not only do I not want this anymore, I don't want to be this anymore, right? Because you can still not want things, but still be the thing that attracts the things that you don't want, right? So you have to not also want to be, right? You have to want to be like, I want to change within. And that's where the being is. That's where the changing happens, right? And that's why these states akin to sleep, which I'm going to break down in another video as well, and how to use them and what's going on in the mind when you do them. But I want to encourage you to use the technique of revision, not just as revise bad stuff, revise good stuff, make it 10 times better, right? So go through your day, right? Tonight comes, whatever that is for you, and you go to bed and you're laying on your bed and you're trying to get into the mood, and then you're like, okay, not that mood, but I mean, like, you're basically getting into the mood of revising the day. Revise good things, because make them 10 times better. Oh, so you went and bought something and got something free? Oh yeah, but imagine getting two things for free, right? Because it alters the patterns of the mind, right? And it changes your state about luck and so on and so forth. So again, Hope these tips are very practical to you. And if you're looking for coaching, get in touch. Neville actually did in God's Purpose talk about how he did charge for his services, and those that had limiting beliefs about paying for those services. And so I wanted to deal with that as well, because I've been receiving some comments here and there. And, I'm in the state of happy, loving coach. So, I do hope this is empowering to you, and get in touch if you are looking for that. So more soon.